Hi there and welcome back to my knitting podcast. This is essentially where I share everything that's going on in my knitting world, so I'm really excited to have you along today. My name is Vera and I am a knitter based out of Austria. I live in the Austrian Alps, so we do get all the seasons here, which also means that I'm always really excited to kind of knit for what's currently going on. So now with the temperatures dropping and with us being outside a lot because it's just so beautiful, I've just been really inspired to knit like thicker garments and to kind of start thinking about what I want to knit going into the winter. So today I have a few finished items to share with you, as well as like my main work in progress, which I'm really trying to, or which I'm very motivated to knit on right now. I will also be sharing kind of like what I am thinking about knitting on in the future. So stay tuned to hear all of that. Before we get started though, as always, I want to talk about what I'm wearing today. This is the Cloud Sweater by Kutovakika. I've worn this a number of times on my podcast, so my apologies if you have already heard all about this. But if you're maybe a little bit new here or just didn't watch those podcasts of mine, this is my Cloud Sweater by Kutovakika, and this is knit up in 2 strands of the hobbii silk mohair, there you go. And I love this thing. I think this is one of my kind of more elegant knitwears, if you can say that. I guess so. And there's various reasons for that. The first one is that it is a full mohair piece, so it kind of has this like airiness, this lightness to it, which I really enjoy. Then you have these really nicely shaped balloon-ish sleeves. They're not too ballooning, but I think it's just enough like to just make it look tied together, put together, and I really enjoy that. Also, when I'm at work, like I don't have the sleeves everywhere, which is kind of enjoyable. I don't actually remember if the pattern asks you to do that. I don't think it actually does. So I think that's just a modification that I made on the pattern. Another modification I made on this pattern, I remember, although I knit it a while ago, was the neckline. Essentially, the pattern doesn't include like picking up a neckline at the end. It just kind of like takes whatever you have as the neckline. And I felt like my sweater just really needed that, so I went back and picked up ribbing for the neckline, and I'm super happy I did that. I did that like quite a bit later because I had kind of worn it and I wasn't really sure about it. So that was definitely the right decision. In terms of the construction, it is a drop shoulder, top down. Is it top down or is it bottom up? I'm not sure, but it is a drop shoulder construction. It suggests to hold 2 strands of mohair double. I should probably add that the 2 strands of mohair I held together was 2 different shades of blue. So one was like a darker blue, one was like a more navy-ish middle tone blue. And it just gives like a really beautiful marling, just not too much, but like just a little bit of interestingness to it. And yeah, so I really love this sweater. I wear it quite a bit. I don't find the yarn itchy. I'm not super sensitive, but I'm also not sensitive, so take that as you will. But personally, I don't find this to be an itchy sweater. So yeah, I should also add this is size S that I made for myself, which I think I even sized down because it just comes with so much positive ease, which was a little bit too much for my liking, so I sized down. I think my measurements should have been a size medium, and I knit it, I believe it was on 5mm needles. So yeah, but let's get into my items for today. The first finished item is actually a gift knit, and it's also not a knit, it is a crochet. So I am a knitter, but every now and then I do enjoy like a nice crochet project. And when my friend asked me to make her one of these, I was pretty excited because A, I think they're really fun. B, it's not really my style, but I like that style on others. So I was excited to be able to create something that maybe I wouldn't normally create for myself, but to be able to create it for her was really nice. And see, I really like knitting for others, so or creating, I should say, because this is a crochet project. So without further ado, here it is. It is a cute little hat in this checked crochet pattern. So what I did is I did double crochet and I created these cute little squares. Each of these squares is like 2 rows, 1 forth and 1 back. And I went into the back loop only, which created like these, kind of like these zigzag. You can kind of see it, like there are definitely some zigzag contours here. And I used a yarn that is a cotton yarn on a, I think it was a 4mm hook. So yeah, I didn't really follow a pattern. I had a look at some patterns that were out there, but I specifically wanted, like, I don't know, I was making it off of like a picture, and I specifically wanted like the double crochet look. So I was just kind of like looking at some videos, I was looking at some patterns online, and then this is what I came up with. I think the thing with crochet is that usually it's constructed the other direction compared to like regular basic knitting, I would say. So whereas a hat you would knit top down or bottom up, with crochet I actually went across. So I guess it's a little bit tricky finding like the right height. I think with this one I think it should fit. I shouldn't have made it any shorter, but yeah, I'm gonna give it to her soon. So I really was happy that I can still show it in this podcast here. I used a cotton yarn. It is the Soft Cotton by Lana Grossa. I unfortunately don't have any left to show you because I didn't realize this when I was purchasing the yarn, but I actually cut it really close in terms of like how much yarn I used. So yeah, if I were to make this again, I would probably think about using a wool cotton blend or something more woolly, because it is just like, it doesn't have that much forgiveness or stretch to it. So I'm just hoping it doesn't stretch out over time. And of course wool is a little bit warmer. But yeah, that is my first finished object, my checked hat. I am going to actually create a project for this on Ravelry and then write down exactly what I did in case anyone wants to recreate it, and I will link that down below. So that's something for me to do before this video goes up. But last time I did share the start of this project, and I did have some questions about like how it was created or constructed, I guess. So I will try to put everything in Ravelry in detail and so on and so forth. So yeah, that is my first finished item. My next finished item is also a gift knit, actually for the same household that this is going to, just for a different person in that household. So this is a huge piece. It is a men's sweater vest that was knit very oversized because that is how I was asked to knit it. And I started this on our summer road trip, which we took through, where did we go? Serbia, well, I guess Slovenia, Serbia, North Macedonia, Albania, Bosnia, and then back up to Slovenia, and then back home. And when we were in Serbia, we actually came across a yarn shop, and then the 4 of us were like, oh my goodness, like I could make something. And then we picked up this yarn. My friend picked this yarn out himself, and he also kind of then like was able to instruct me like exactly what he wants. And this is the outcome, and I'm really happy with this. I'm quite proud of it because I've never really made something for someone else by just figuring it out along the way. So it was like a lot of kind of listening to what he wants and figuring it out, like how I'm gonna construct it and everything. So I'll quickly tell you the construction. I started with a regular cast on, and then I kind of knit like the front panel, did the same thing on the other side. I did some like leaning increases on the front here, so those are like the stitches that you see here. Then I eventually joined it together at the front. I did a cast on at the back. No, that's a lie. I picked up the stitches on the back here. Then I did like a little bit of increasing here and here, and then I joined it together. And then eventually I joined the round and like did everything you would normally do when you're knitting a sweater, but instead of the sleeves, I added this ribbing here. So it was actually a really cool process and a really fun experience trying to figure everything out. Also making it in a size that is like way bigger for me, like way bigger than what I would need. This will become a pattern. I am just not sure when or how, if I might want to make it into like a unisex pattern kind of, because I could also see myself wearing something like this, just like in a much smaller size that fits more snug. So like I will be working on that, but it's not really anything that's gonna be rushed in my books at least. Yeah, so I will also gift this to him soon. I guess it'll be his Christmas present. The yarn I used for this is the Etrofil, what is this? Bambino Luxe Wool by Etrofil. And you might have seen me mention this. I haven't talked about this vest in a few podcast episodes because I've kind of like put it on hold. But now I was just motivated to finish it because the seasons are, or the days are getting colder, and I figured like he'd want to wear this. So this yarn is an interesting one. It is also Turkish yarn, and I should probably show you a little bit closer. It is a Turkish yarn that is designed in Italy, and from my understanding, this is a really big yarn brand, really big yarn company in Turkey. So he chose this yarn himself, and I've honestly never really seen any yarn like it. So I'm gonna try to like show you, in that the yarn, or like the string itself, it doesn't have like a very good definition. It's almost kind of like a little bit of a muted like spun texture. So I'm not really too sure how to explain that, but I hope you can kind of get an idea here. The composition is 60% merino and 40% acrylic, and one of these 50-gram balls was €2.50. So super affordable yarn. It also ranges 160 meters, and this is definitely a DK weight yarn. So it runs really far. It's a very affordable yarn. It's 60% merino. Yes, it is 40% acrylic, but for durability and just like the intactness of the yarn, I think this could be a very interesting yarn to also work with in the future. Just like economically, it's very affordable. And I mean, I haven't worn this obviously because it's not for myself, but I'm just really curious also to hear his his reviews on it, because I don't know, maybe this is something that like is yet to be discovered by like the, I'm gonna say, more Western European / North American knitting world, the whole like Turkish yarn scene, I guess. The stitch definition kind of matches like what the yarn looks like. It looks clearer here on video, I will say, than what it looks like in person, but it's definitely a little bit more of a blended stitch definition, which I think is also interesting. Like I like that. I don't need all my stitches to be like super crisp and super clearly defined. So yeah, that was my vest. I'm really happy it's finished. I'm not really sure what I'm gonna call it yet, but yeah, also super impressed by the Turkish yarn. The only thing is that when I was knitting it, my finger was literally turning brown because the yarn was losing its color. So I mean, to be fair, I did knit probably like half of this in like 2 days, so I was knitting a lot. So there was a lot of yarn like running through my fingers. Interestingly though, when I went to block it, it lost less than expected from that like coloring experience. Also my knitting needles, my bamboo knitting needles, are like a lot darker thanks to this now. So yeah, it lost less color blocking, but I'm not really sure what the color loss situation is on this. I mean, I blocked it with a regular wool wash, with like a Catilin wool wash. Yeah, and I also didn't have this issue with my other Turkish yarn from Etrofil, the Blue-Faced Leicester fleece that I knit my Monday sweater, and I didn't have any bleeding issues with that. Maybe the color was like a little bit like tinted when I blocked it, but not much different to this one. So that's kind of interesting. But anyways, that is my second finished item of the day. Another finished item in the sense that it was a finished item like I think 2 or 3 episodes ago, but the pattern is now published, which I'm really excited for. So it's a finished project for me in that sense. And those are my Sakura gloves, which are in the very final stages of test knitting at the moment. Everything is looking pretty good, and I'm just really excited that I can release this pattern soon. There are these gloves that feature this simple pattern on the inside and then these beautiful flowers on the outside, and they will come in 3 sizes: small, medium, and large. And each size is like a little bit of a different color chart, which was also really important for me to get like test knitters of every size, a few, and like for just to really make sure that the charts are okay. And yeah, so this will be available. I am on Ravelry and on Etsy, so you can go check it out if you're interested. I'm just really happy with these. I'm very proud of them. I'm really excited to start wearing them. I wore them for the very first time, like actual outside wear. I mean, I've put them on before, but like I wore them for the very first time this morning when I was biking to work, and they were super warm. The stitch gauge here is 20 stitches in stockinette stitch in this color work. And I mean, here I held Drops Air and Drops Kid Silk Mohair, or whatever the Drops Mohair is, together. So they're really fluffy and like a very dense fabric, and that's kind of like my intention with them as well, that they're nice and thick. But of course, if you prefer a looser glove, like that's also totally fine. So I'll leave all the links to that, but also everything else that I'm talking about today. I'll leave everything down below in the description box. Now I want to move on to my works in progress. It is one main work in progress because the other things I'm working on I've kind of put to the side. Yeah, I've just kind of been wanting to focus on this one. I've been really motivated. So you might be able to guess it, but the one I'm talking about is my King Salmon Sweater. It is looking like this at the moment. It's very awkward to try to get this whole thing in the frame. But here it is. I've actually just started the ribbing at the bottom, and this is becoming like quite the sweater. It's definitely like has some weight to it. So this is the King Salmon Sweater by Catilin Hunter. You've probably seen it somewhere on the internet if you're, if you look at a lot of things knitting online, because it is kind of like a little bit famous at the moment, I guess. I'm making this for my partner, and he has kind of always wanted a fish sweater, so it was just kind of like a perfect pattern in all honesty, because he likes going fishing, so we kind of wanted to make something nice for him about that. I think the last time I showed you it in the podcast, I was somewhere in the color work, so I was able to finish that now. And I was also able to finish most of the body except for the bind up essentially. In terms of the color work, it was definitely like, it took a while. I'm not really the fastest color work knitter, so I am a continental knitter, which means that my stockinette, like usually I'm just looking at the TV or talking to someone, or it's very mindless. And my color work is not that mindless because I started putting both yarns like on one finger, but then I quickly switched to like flicking with my right hand. Is that English style? I'm not really sure. And then doing continental with my left hand. I should probably add that this sweater, according to the pattern, it's knit at an 18 stitch gauge, I think. Yes, 18 stitch gauge. My gauge swatch was at around a 20 stitch gauge, and my colorwork gauge turned out at around 19.5 stitches. So I'm basically hitting my own gauge. I'm making a size 5 for him, which would be a size 4 measurement wise, but because of the gauge I'm making size 5, so I get the measurements of size 4. This pattern has a lot of sizing, so it's super nice, very size inclusive. But I don't know, a lot of people I know have issues with colorwork being too tight. My issue tends to be in that it's often a little bit on the looser side, which, I mean, I usually don't really get issues with it pulling in With this one, for some reason, it was like very scrunched up when I first was knitting it. So this is actually steam blocked, and now like there is no issue at all. But because I'm often like a little bit on the looser side, I know that like I definitely don't need to change my needle size to a larger needle size, which I know people do in color work. And it also means that like, yeah, I in the transition usually also don't really have the like difference in gauge issue too much. So yeah, with this one it's all working out pretty nicely. I mean, down here you'll still see that there are some bumps, like kind of, I'm not really sure how well you can see them, but I am very confident that will block out. Let me quickly talk about the yarn I'm using for this. I'm using the Alpina Landhauswolle, which is, I assume it's a superwash yarn. It's a machine washable yarn, which makes me think it's superwash. But it's a relatively, like, for superwash, I think it is like more in the, like, I don't want to call it rustic because it's not a rustic yarn, but like, you know how superwash can sometimes feel very soft, almost like in a squeaky way, if that makes, not squeaky, but like, I think if you know what I'm trying to explain. And this is not at all that. It feels like a very regular woolen yarn. The colorways I'm using is this beige gray. Depending on the light, it's more beige or more gray. It's color number 1, and the green one is color number 16, which is a very, yeah, I would say like it's a very like deep green, like a foresty deep green, like a plant green, kind of like matches on my plant here in the background. Yeah, and I use just over 1 skein for the color work, because I think if you're making anything in under a size 5, or like somewhere around like 4 and below, you could probably get away with 100 grams. These are 100 gram skeins, by the way. Anything above that, you'll need more than 1 skein for sure. And yeah, I have a lot more of these because we had like a whole color switch. We thought we were gonna make a green sweater with gray fish. Turns out we switched it around because that was his preference. So now I have a lot of green yarn, and I'm really thinking about making myself one in the opposite colors because that would be really cute, right? I'm not sure my fiance will love that as much as I do, but I think it would be cute. So maybe if I'm not sick of it after this one, because in all honesty, these fish, especially this part here, is like, this is a commitment at this stage. I think one round took me like over 15 minutes to fully knit around. Yeah, so now all I need to do is the bind off and the sleeves, so that should be relatively quick. He's actually in a trip right now. He's coming back next week, and I would love to have this finished when he comes back. I think that would be really sweet, and so that he could also like wear it now that it's winter out. I should also add that this is a 80% wool and 20% polyamide yarn, so it should give that nice breathability during the winter. He runs really warm, so often he gets by with just a sweater like this outside in the winter, which is, or would be, way too cold for me, but for him it kind of works. So that would be really nice if he could kind of wear this as like a more outdoorsy sweater. In terms of the pattern, it's nice to follow, it's easy to follow. It doesn't really like give too much detail, but it also doesn't give any, like it doesn't omit any details that you might need, or at least that's what I'm finding. So it's been a very nice experience knitting this one. So my other projects are the Dagmar sweater, or the Dagmar zipper sweater, and my Numa pullover, both of which have kind of been a little bit on the back burner because I have just been putting all my knitting time into this sweater and finishing my other items. So I'm not going to go into that much detail of them here, but especially my Dagmar, I really want to focus on more after the salmon sweater will be completed. And another thing I want to point out is that I finished the painting. So if you watched the last episode, my sardines are finished. I'm really excited by how fun they are, because I don't know, I'm not a painter by any means. So if you are a painter, just don't look closely. But I really like them, and it was kind of like a fun side project for me to focus a little bit of my other creative energy on it, I guess. So in terms of what I wanna knit on in the near future, I don't really have like a specific pattern in mind, but I do have 2 things that I really want to make. That is a hood for the winter and a sleeveless vest. That's gonna be very fuzzy and like a light fuzzy color. I'm not really sure what patterns I'm going to use, if I'm even going to use a pattern, but those are kind of the things that right now are motivating me or inspiring me. Yeah, with the temperatures getting colder, I just kind of like, I would like another layer. So my camera battery died a little bit there, and now the sun has set. But since I figured we're already kind of at the end of the episode, or nearing the end, I would just turn on my lights and finish filming it here. So I was talking about how I kind of wanted to make a hood and a vest. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. So I will kind of keep you updated. I'm not really like sure, because I think the Dagmar zipper sweater is gonna take a lot of time as well, and the Nuo pullover, technically that can take forever, that piece, but I definitely like want other things going on. And I've also just really been enjoying like self-drafting things and like thinking about writing patterns for different things I make. So we'll see kind of where it goes, but that's kind of also the fun of it. Like, sometimes there's so much comfort in knitting a pattern. Like, I think especially petite knit patterns, Kutovakika patterns, like that is such a comfort zone for me in terms of just like relying on a pattern. So it is just kind of like, for me, it's very nice to balance the two, and then, you know, trying different patterns for newer designers or test knitting things or creating my own. I think there's just such a nice like balance to be had in between all those things. And now moving into winter, it literally getting dark it's not even 5 o'clock yet. Oh no, it is 5 o'clock. But getting dark like a lot earlier. Yeah, I just think I'm really like just excited to get not more into knitting. I'm very into knitting, but like just kind of settle down a little bit, quieten down, slow down a little bit, and enjoy my knitting. While it's really cold outside, there is snow in the mountains, but it's all melted away because the days are actually still quite warm. But soon enough, I'll be sitting here looking at the mountains and knitting. And I think there's just few things that are nicer and more relaxing in the evenings than doing exactly that. So I think I will leave it here for today. I'm really happy that I have a lot of things that I've been wanting to finished, and that I'm kind of really getting into my current projects a little bit more. I will keep updating in these podcasts, and I'll see you in the next one, I guess. Until then, I hope you take care. Bye.